Enduring chaos, what it's really like in America's toughest corrections facility. Subscribe for more true crime. Like, comment, and help uncover the truth with us. The alarms blared at 4:12 a.m., echoing through the concrete corridors of the maximum security unit. Guards scrambled as the riot gates in the west yard of Lee Correctional Institution in Bishopville, South Carolina, were breached. Flames licked the early dawn sky. Inmates flooded the yard with makeshift weapons, and the facility plunged into chaos. 7 prisoners were killed. Dozens rushed to the hospital, and the deadliest prison riot in America in the past 25 years had begun. Inmate Carlos Shade Miller had been asleep when the panic started. His cell door slammed open and a guard yelled, "Move into the yard, now." He felt the heat before he saw the flames. A trash dumpster tossed against the razor-wire fence, smoldering embers rising into the pre-dawn mist. Shade sprinted across cracked pavement, water from recent rain reflecting the guard lights and the first orange glow of the fires, his heart pounding in solidarity with the madness. Inside the control room, Warden Mark Rivers and Lieutenant Sarah Hernandez locked eyes as monitors flickered from feeds of multiple cell blocks. Hernandez noticed the F3 housing unit doors being bypassed. The screen caught a dark silhouette slipping through a broken window. "They're coordinated," she shouted into the radio. "I want backup at West Yard now." The air smelled of smoke, sweat, and something worse, fear crystallizing in the corridors. Shade had once been a model prisoner. He spent hours in the library writing letters home to his daughter Jenna, promising her a new life after release. He studied for his GED and kept his head down. But inside the walls of Lee, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Overcrowding, gang rivalry between the Bloods, Crips and gangster disciples, short staffing and long nights. Investigators later pointed to those conditions as triggers for the riot. As the yard burned and sirens wailed outside the thick compound walls, Shade found himself cornered by 2 inmates demanding his radio earpiece, his link to the outside world. He hesitated. That split-second decision changed everything. He bolted toward a guard tower, but a roar drowned his footsteps. A guard's shotgun fired. Drones of tear gas grenades rattled across the yard, and a door to the mess hall exploded inward. The entire structure shuddered. And then the worst happened. In the debris of the mess hall, under churned-up concrete and flight of broken chairs, Hernandez's monitor froze on an image. A hostage Drake lanyard dangling from an inmate's neck, evidence someone inside wore the guard's credentials. The screen blinked. The control room held its breath. And when they opened the locked armory door, what they found changed everything. The morning after the riot was silent, eerily silent. Smoke still drifted over the South Carolina pines as investigators from the Department of Corrections and FBI combed through the wreckage of Lee Correctional Institution. The yard looked like a battlefield. Charred uniforms, twisted metal trays, and scorched concrete painted the aftermath of chaos. Every step the agents took crunched over shattered glass and burnt debris. The smell of smoke mixed with a faint stench of disinfectant as cleanup crews began their grim work. Lieutenant Sarah Hernandez hadn't slept in 36 hours. Her voice was hoarse, her eyes red. She stood near the armory, where they had found the body of a missing officer the night before, his security badge stripped, his keys gone. "Whoever took those keys knew exactly what they were doing," she muttered to Warden Rivers. "This wasn't random. It was organized." Meanwhile, inmate Carlos Shade Miller sat in solitary confinement, wrapped in a gray blanket, staring at the concrete wall. He hadn't spoken since the guards dragged him from the yard. His cell was cold and damp, but his mind burned with questions. He had seen things that night, movements in the shadows, coded hand signals, and a man in a guard's uniform who didn't walk like one. He knew something bigger was at play. By noon, federal investigators had arrived. Agent Marcus Kane, a former Marine-turned-prison intelligence specialist, examined the surveillance footage. "Freeze that," he said, pointing to a figure slipping through the yard during the riot. The man wore the dead officer's badge and disappeared into the restricted control hallway, an area that should have been locked down. "That's our ghost," Kane said grimly. He wasn't escaping, he was hunting. Inside her office, Hernandez reviewed Shade's file again. He wasn't affiliated with any gang, had no disciplinary history, and was scheduled for parole in 3 months. Yet he was found near the mess hall explosion, the same blast that killed 3 inmates and the missing guard. Something didn't add up. "I want to talk to him," she said. In the dim interrogation room, Shade's voice finally broke the silence. "You think this was about gangs?" he said, his tone steady but cold. "It wasn't. Someone planned this, someone inside. The guards weren't just targets. They were pawns." Before Hernandez could press further, alarms suddenly wailed again. An officer burst into the room shouting, "Unit D just went dark. Power's out. Doors aren't responding." Every monitor in the control room flickered off one by one, plunging the facility into darkness. And as emergency lights flickered to life, a chilling realization spread across the room. Someone had the armory keys, and now they had control of the prison. Red emergency lights pulsed through the corridors, casting long shadows against the concrete walls. The prison was on lockdown again, but this time, it wasn't chaos born of panic. It was coordinated. Every officer knew it. Every inmate felt it. The air was thick with tension, the kind that presses on your chest and makes every breath feel like a warning. Lieutenant Sarah Hernandez gripped her radio, her boots echoing through the dim hallway. "Control, this is Hernandez. Status on Unit D." Static. No response. Only the low hum of the generators trying to keep the lights alive. Behind her, Agent Marcus Kane moved with his flashlight drawn, scanning the steel doors, each one glowing faintly red under the backup lights. "They've got control of the panel," he muttered. "If they've locked us out, they can open any door they want." In solitary, Carlos Shade, Miller sat motionless. The sudden power outage brought memories of the riot flooding back. The screams, the smoke, the desperate scramble for survival. But now, something felt different. Methodical. Calculated. He knew whoever had taken the armory keys wasn't done. From his narrow window slit, he could see flickers of movement in the outer corridor, figures moving in formation. Not guards. Inmates. In the control room, Warden Rivers stared at the flickering monitors. "I don't understand," he said. "We cleared every weapon, every access point." Hernandez turned to him sharply. "Not the old service tunnels," she said. "The ones under the West Block, they were sealed after the last expansion, but not welded shut." Kane's eyes narrowed. "If that's true, they can move undetected straight into the armory." Within minutes, a tactical team swept toward the tunnels, guided by flashlights and the faint echo of dripping water. The air was cold and damp, thick with rust and mildew. Then they found it. The steel hatch pried open, chains cut clean through. Kane's heart sank. They're already inside. Above ground, the prison erupted in noise, cell doors rattling, metal clanging, inmates shouting. Hernandez pushed forward as a blast from the armory door knocked her back. Smoke filled the hallway. Through the haze, she saw the unmistakable silhouette of a man, the same figure from the security footage, holding a keyring that glinted in the red light. "Drop it," she shouted, weapon raised. The man turned slowly. It wasn't a guard. It wasn't even an inmate she recognized. His voice was calm, almost haunting. "You built this cage," he said. "I just learned how to open it." Before she could react, he disappeared into the darkness, slipping through the west gate as the klaxons screamed across the compound. By dawn, order was restored, but the man was gone. The armory keys were missing, 2 vehicles stolen from the maintenance lot. And among the chaos, one more discovery sent chills through every investigator. In the abandoned tunnel, they found a folded guard's uniform and Carlos Shade, Miller's inmate ID, lying beside it. He had vanished. And 3 months later, hundreds of miles away in Georgia, another maximum security facility experienced an unexplained blackout, just minutes before a guard went missing. They thought the chaos had ended at Lee Correctional. But it was only beginning. If you thought this story was intense, the next one will leave you speechless. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.